Hello, this is my very first video, so please bear with me. We're going to make a one sock kitty. Should take about a nice cozy evening at home. Hello, this is Laura Shelley, and I'm going to teach you how to make a one sock cat. So let's get started. Now these are the materials that you will need. A sock, of course, and I chose this sock because I accidentally put, these were my favorites, I accidentally put them in the dryer and they shrunk and now they don't fit my feet anymore, so it makes for a nice little kitty. As you can see, I have felt, some polyfill stuffing, but you could use an old pillowcase or an old pillow with stuffing and just unstuff it. I have some embroidery thread that I use to do the stitching and give the whiskers, but you can use yarn too. And this is all that is left when we're done with the sock. That's it. So it's really all inclusive. This is the sock that I will make the next one out of, and the scary part was, okay, I did the scary part first. I cut the toe off like that. These are going to be the arms and the tail. It's going to be split into 3 sections. This is going to be the body. This is the butt of the cat. This will be where the ears are. And this is an extra long sock. So I am going to cut it. And I'm going to cut it by folding the heel like this. And measuring about the same for the legs. And I'm going to cut it again. So that makes the top of the cat. That's the butt. And then these are the legs, and I will cut the legs approximately in half. This is also kind of a scary part, so I cut the legs. I can already tell he's going to be cute. And then the top here, which was where I cut the toe off, I'm cutting for the ears, and I'll just fold it in half to make sure that it is even on both sides, so you can kind of see it already shaping up. Since this sock was so long, I don't need the rest of this part. But I can make the arms like this. This is the toe, and I'm folding it into 3s, and I'm cutting. Now you see, from the toe, I have 2 arms, which I'm going to need to sew, and a tail. This is the middle section of the toe. The next step is to turn all of this inside out and start sewing it. So I'm going to start from the top. I'm going to sew along here, just hand sewing. You want to be careful when you're sewing the sock to really make sure that you get all those ends, because socks can unravel at the ends. You want to make sure you catch all that. And the way I do that is I put the 2 sides together, and then I go up and down like this, like through. And then I go back too. I keep going back until I get it right. Now that I turned him back right side out after I stitched on the inside, I'm going to need to take like a chopstick I like to use, or maybe a dull pencil, and just stick up the points of those little ears. I see here that I went a little too far, and there's a little hole at the top of this one ear, so I'm just going to stick it back in like that. Hide my little end, and just kind of fix it like this now. You won't really see it that much when it's done. You won't see it at all. Now in that kitty, I used these special eyes, cat eyes that I got from, I think, Ben Franklin when that was still around. But you can use buttons, and this is the fun part. So you can use buttons directly to your sock. I cut a little nose out of felt. Sometimes I like to put some felt behind the buttons before I sew it on, and that's kind of fun. And I use this embroidery floss because I have it on hand, but you can also use yarn or dental floss or any sort of thing that you can figure out how to find. Okay, now I've sewn my fun little cat face on here. The next step is I'm going to start stuffing the ears. And I use a chopstick or something to get the nice little, get them up in the points there. And don't worry if you poke through, you can just sew it back up again, because that sometimes happens if you're too forceful at the tips of that. I'm using polyfill here. I happen to have this at home, but some of you may not, as I mentioned, so you can use an old pillow or an old cushion, or cut up scraps of other fabric. And how you stuff him or her can really give it the personality. So just be careful when you're stuffing him or her to not get too lumpy, and just have fun with it. Difficulty in this is grabbing the fabric a little bit up and just grabbing a little piece of it, just so if you grab it at the edge, you could pull right through. So grab it like that. And the heel part of this is going to be a little more difficult too, because you can see how it's threadbare. These were my favorite socks. So you have to kind of be a little gentle with this area. It's just a simple stitch here. I think they call it the whip stitch, and I'm careful not to pick up my edges again. I'm going to sew all the way down to the tip of this leg before I stuff it. Here's also a fun part. So we got down to the bottom of the leg. I guess all the parts are kind of fun. And now we're going to stuff it and sew up the toe. And when we sew up the toe, we're going to kind of do it like in a rounded fashion so he doesn't have square feet. So I would probably just tuck it in like this at the end. And this cat's going to have very long legs. Now that we're at the end, I wanted to show you how I normally do this. I kind of go backwards a little bit just to make the little curve in here. And I kind of curve it on one side, kind of sew straight across, and then curve it on the other side, remembering to kind of tuck your fabric in like that. So here's one leg done, and I'm going to do the same on the other side. As a little tip, when I get to the end of the rounding of the foot, I kind of tuck it in like that with the needle, and it makes it easier to see where I need to grab the sock. Alternatively, you could put the face on at this point. I didn't have to do it before I stuffed him. And one of my whiskers popped out, so you can do the whiskers this way. I'm going to go in somewhere random in the back and put the whisker where I want it to come out and just kind of pull that knot through, and it slipped through, and I heard it snap, and now it's stuck onto there. I'm going to cut that whisker. Here's my toe. We'll have like 1/3 of the toe. I'm going to fold it inside out and sew up there for the arm. Okay, at this point we're at the toe parts. These are the outside of the toe parts I made for the arms, and this is the inside of the toe part that I made for the tail. And I sewed them all inside out, turned them right side out, and then stuffed them. Okay, so here is your finished sock cat, or kitty sock, one sock kitty. And final touches are going to be to trim the whiskers, which is very fun. Doop, doop. And maybe a little like little tiny pills off your socks if you have any of those. And kitty's done. Kitty, meet kitty.